Let's do this thing.
We are live. Hello, everyone. It's Magic Will Middleton and Kurt Von Ahnen from LifterLMS. Whether it's launching LMS platforms for multi-million-dollar corporations or building out your LMS backend infrastructure, Kurt is an expert in all things instructional design, LifterLMS, building out websites, project management, and myself, Will Middleton. I do a lot of work here at Lifter around creating documentation, videos, managing the products, and all kinds of third-party ecosystem stuff, some content, webinars, and calls like this, where me and Kurt join you live to answer any questions. If you see us on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, drop us a comment where you're calling in from, and any questions you have about Lifter. We'll be here for the next hour, finding questions from social media and answering those live here on the call, and then also anyone who jumps in live, we'd be happy to answer your questions as well here. Let me jump over to YouTube and see if I can find any comments from the past week or so.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah.
We had a good time going live yesterday.
Oh yeah. Turn this rock music up. Yeah, we had a great time. We had a lot of people joining us. I wonder, how do I share this video you sent me? I wonder if I can just share my.
I was going to have you loaded into where it says video clips under brand in StreamYard, and then you can just click it and play it whenever you want.
Okay. Brand overlay video clips. I see. Like as a background or as a video?
No, it'll play, and then it'll mute our microphones. It'll play, and then it'll automatically bring us back to screen.
Okay, cool.
It's like an intro video.
It's uploading. Nice. It's uploading now. We'll play that here in a second, and I'll keep queuing up some stuff from YouTube. There's first question. Load into the chat. Oh man, that's a slow upload. I hope that's not going in a circle. Oh well. That might take it.
You are on some funky Wi-Fi in a European bloc nation somewhere.
That is true. Yeah. Let me drop a comment in here. So that might be at the rate that this thing is uploading, maybe an end of stream thing. I mean, it's about an eighth of the way done.
We're here for an hour.
Cool. Well, our first question. Let me. We played that one already. LifterLMS song. We'll just play this one in the background.
Did you see what I put in our general channel today that I considered a win?
No, I didn't.
I wonder if I could. Yeah, I could probably share that. Present. Share screen. Window. Boom. All right. So you might need to make that a full screen show right there. But I got spammed today in LinkedIn, both in my messaging and on one of my posts, by a seasoned agency specializing in LMS solutions. They're here to take your LifterLMS experience to new heights. Let's connect and discuss how we can assist you. Schedule a call. So I invited him to the agency link at LifterLMS.
Yeah.
But I was like, wow, man, we are really climbing. We're climbing the rungs of popularity when I'm getting message spammed about increasing my LMS exposure.
Nice.
That was good.
Yeah,
I'm calling that one a win.
Nice. Yeah, the LinkedIn and my email inbox has got a lot of stuff like that. It makes it hard for me to find the real stuff. Someone contacting me or whatever. This was a question we had from YouTube. Hi, where and how would you insert a glossary in your course? Maybe open in a new tab. Make sure I'm up to speed on. Yeah, I guess. I would do that probably as a page. I would maybe make a page on the website that would act as a glossary. It maybe even could be a lesson. Maybe lesson 1 is like the glossary. And then within each other lesson, you could make a global block or a reusable block that you could drop into each of your lessons that links back to that lesson one, back to the glossary. And whether you do it as a page or you do it as a lesson within your course, I think the reusable block in WordPress is what I would use, just to say link to glossary. And like we talked about yesterday, you could also customize the layout of your lesson with full site editing. Maybe you'd put it in the upper right of the sidebar, linking just like a button that says link to resource, link to glossary. I would do it like that. Just to have the lesson format would allow you to restrict it to the course. If you were to do it as a page, it would probably be a public page. Or maybe if you had a membership, you could restrict the page so only people in the membership could view the page. But I think a lesson would probably be the cleanest way to do this. A lesson that was linked to where you could re-reference it. I don't know, Kurt, do you have any input on that, on creating a glossary for users within a course?
Not really. I wish I had a better way to phrase that, but I think of it like, when I think of a glossary, like a glossary of terms, I almost go back to things that are like wikis or knowledge banks or something like that. Like I would go to a third-party edition. It depends on, how big, what your use case is and stuff like that. But, if you need an index or a glossary of terms or a wiki or a knowledge bank, or like, we have the knowledge base for LifterLMS, those are separate tools that you can add, not necessarily an LMS tool. And so it really comes down to your use case and what your specific application is. If you have a really small glossary and you just want to cover like some industry specific terms or acronyms, well, then it's almost like you could make a resource, a downloadable resource attached to your media bin and have that link to a button. So maybe it's a PDF that opens up in another, tab or something like that. There's all kinds of ways to answer it. But the main driver is that you need to understand what's your real use case and what's the expanse of your information that you need to share. And then you'll know what tool you need.
Yeah. That makes sense.
I hope I said that in a way that made sense.
Yeah, for sure. I was posting a reply and YouTube told me something went wrong. So I guess we'll jump to the next question.
Something went wrong.
I'll retype that reply I wrote and we'll highlight this one on screen. So this question was, my course sidebar isn't showing up on the courses page or on the course page. The standard blog sidebar is. I'm using the Avada theme. I haven't worked with the Avada theme before. LifterLMS. This might be a situation where super sidebars is needed. I found a resource Avada theme course and lesson sidebar with LifterLMS. Let me read through this one. Change slow. Lo-fi. Okay, so yeah, the super sidebars is something you'd want to use in this scenario. So LifterLMS super sidebars is a free part of the LifterLMS Labs plugin in the WordPress repo. You can find LifterLMS Labs. This includes a couple of sort of experimental and additional features of LifterLMS that we didn't include in the core plugin, as it would just cause kind of bloat for people who aren't looking for these features in their website. They're not like massively core features to Lifter. So I'll post that here in chat. This resource specifically is about LifterLMS Avada theme, but if you look up LifterLMS Labs in the WordPress plugin repository, you'll find that resource available. You can modify what your course catalog looks like by removing a few items, or you could remove items from the course page. This is frequently used by people who are working with maybe Elementor or Divi. And when you launch those builders on a course or a lesson, for example, it puts some things at the bottom of the course page, for example. When you launch the Elementor builder on that page, it adds a syllabus, instructor details, course information. These things that we're used to seeing in blocks automatically get added from a legacy PHP template. This was like before the block editor existed, when there was just that classic editor. The only option to add content to your page was this WYSIWYG text editor. And so LifterLMS as a plugin came in and added some additional features pertaining to courses to the page, like the course information, syllabus, getting started button, all the stuff that we're used to seeing in blocks. But then when the block editor came along, we just transferred these items into blocks. But this code still exists in LifterLMS to add those items without blocks whenever you're using an editor that isn't the block editor. So if you were to launch Elementor, you launch Divi, you launch the classic editor, it's going to trigger this older template to apply and add these features for you. So you have those on your course page, and you might want to remove those. And so LifterLMS Labs Action Manager would be a solution to remove them. We use that one a lot, but in this case, we're talking about super sidebars, which is one that allows you to add a sidebar for your course and lessons to solve this exact problem. For the blog sidebar showing up in your lessons, usually we want the lesson and course sidebar to show up. This allows you to have, maybe course progress and a course outline in your sidebar to make it a little bit easier to navigate in lessons. Because when a student's in a lesson, we probably don't want to be promoting blog posts to them. So that's where the course and lesson sidebar comes in. So let me write that up in a comment back here, and hopefully YouTube won't block comment. I guess, Kurt, have you used super sidebars before on any LifterLMS installs?
It has been such a long time, Will. I remember when I was a customer and I signed up with LifterLMS, my sidebars wouldn't work on, I was using like a newspaper theme, like a news something theme, and the sidebars wouldn't come up on my pages other than the home page. And I'm going to tell you, man, I probably spent 5 or 6 hours, because I told you when I started as a customer, I was like tenacious. I wanted to be self-sufficient. And I spent hours upon hours upon hours trying to figure it out. And then I simply sent in a message to LifterLMS support, and like it seemed almost instant, It was like, oh, you need super sidebars, bam, bam, bam. And then everything worked. I don't think it's too much of a problem. So I run into this a lot. Like people say, well, how does this look? Or how does that look? Or that's not working. And people are still using like these extraneous, like weird themes. Like they found them on Theme Forest or something, and they see the sample and they go, oh, that's awesome. I want my website to look like that. And then they download it and they go, where's all the stuff? And then a lot of the features from other plugins won't work because they weren't built for that. Whereas, if you just stick with simple stuff like Astra or Cadence or even the Hello theme, building something basic, you're going to be able to find ways to make things work pretty readily out of the box.
Right. And Super Sidebars was developed before a lot of themes supported LifterLMS, and then Astra came along, and I think it's now the #1 theme in the WordPress space, I think based on installs. Could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's the most popular one right now, and it does support LifterLMS sidebars out of the box. So there's almost, and Cadence as well, and then there's LifterLMS SkyPilot, which of course supports the sidebars. And it's funny that the sidebars in SkyPilot sidebars aren't really even a thing anymore. It's just a part of the layout on the page. You have a 50 to maybe a 50%, maybe a 70%, 75% width section, and then you have a 25% width section. So it's like, it's not really main content sidebar. It's just format the page however you want to using these columns. And that's functionally what sidebars have always been. But the term sidebar was just kind of introduced in order to make it a little more clear as to what the purpose of these areas is going to be, when WordPress was a little bit more limited in what you can do. But now with the block editor allowing you to really customize the fundamental layout of your pages, there's not as much of a need for a dedicated sidebar section when you can just create a column and add whatever you want to that column. I'll try to log into my demo site here and see if I could show this a little bit with editing sidebars. There we go. Sites, view site, share the site here. No. Cool. So within a LifterLMS SkyPilot or any full site editing theme, we have that editor area. And if we jump into my lesson layout, let me also go back out to my WordPress area, and I'll open my sample course in a new tab so we can see what I'm talking about live. So over here in the Saving Strategy course, I have the right-hand sidebar over here. And then if I edit my templates in the full site editor, this is going to be the course page, single course. Let me check that that's the template I'm using. That's one thing I want to highlight, is that just because I have a template in my full site editor that says single course doesn't mean that that's the template that's automatically being applied to my course. It's important to check when we edit the course in the edit course page what template this course is using. This will apply to pages, blog posts, lessons. Any post type is going to be using a template, and I can see single course is the one that this is using. So single course is the one I'm going to want to edit. I think it's important to kind of make that connection, that just because this says single course doesn't mean that it's automatically applying to all of them. I could create another template and apply it to different courses as an option. But when I'm within my single course layout here, let's take a look at the template and what I have. I've got my header. That's going to be the same header I have on the rest of the website, but then the main content inside of this group is really what I'm looking for. So if I go into the columns, I've got this main column that includes the post title, course categories, course difficulties, course tracks, and then post content. Post content, of course, is going to be all of the items I have right here inside of my individual edit course screen. And then I have a second column over here, and this is what I'm talking about with the sidebar. This one isn't really called sidebar. It's just the layout that's 25% of my page. So we've got the post featured image. I have a block that says unsupported course progress block. Looks like that might be a legacy block there. I could just put the remove that one. I'll put the course progress block with the continue button up there at the top, and then course syllabus. And since I'm modifying a template, it says no course selected, no syllabus found for this course. That's because I'm currently modifying a template, and so it doesn't know the ID of the course that I'm working with, because this is just a template that would apply to anything. But then if I jump back over to view my course, we can see I have it set up here. Let me view as a student. There's my progress bar, and I was messing around with my colors a little bit. I could probably demo LifterLMS Labs here a little bit too. We were talking about LifterLMS Labs. Under LifterLMS Labs, I was working with simple branding, the simple branding lab, and I was changing my primary colors and changing all this stuff around for my branding for a tutorial. But I think I can deactivate this lab.
Well, it seems like something that's simple. If you stay where you're at on this page right now,
yeah,
I just want to point this out because I'm seeing people get lost. So with the full site editing, you have the edit site at the top in your toolbar, right?
Yeah.
And as you said repeatedly, edit site is for the template, the template, the template. And I think what people need to understand, it's like thinking about hanging a picture on your wall. The template is just like the frame. It's the frame of where the content's going to go. But if they wanted to edit the content in the site, it would be edit course or edit lesson or edit page, whatever that other edit thing is that's on that toolbar. Because I'm seeing a lot of users dump into edit site, adjusting something on a template, and then getting frustrated when they can't change it when they go to edit somewhere else. You know what I mean?
Right. When we click on the edit site area, we'll end up somewhere like right here, where I can edit the templates on my website, and I'm working with the single course template. Templates, single course is the one I'm working on. And like you said, Kurt, it's the frame for what this page is going to look like. If we open the block editor and expand the groups, we can see in column 1, the post title. These are some of the items from the frame. And then this is really the sort of, in the metaphor, the picture in the frame is going to be the post content. And that's going to be what I see when I edit the course. I've got like a paragraph, and then I've got some blocks below here. Let's see what kind of content I have. I've got a paragraph, and then I've got some custom blocks below here. So this is almost like the picture within the frame. And then there's the frame as the editor. But they're both in the block editor, which is kind of, I think, where the confusion comes from, is that both the frame and the picture in this metaphor are using blocks. So it looks like a very similar interface. And so sometimes it's not as clear, especially when we click up here into the header. If I click on header, we can see up here at the top, it changed to single course header. If I click down here into group, it drops into single course. So even though I can start messing around in my header if I were to change something, like putting in a maybe a paragraph block here, whatever, and then I go to save, it's going to let me know, are you ready to save? The following changes have been made to your site and your templates. You've been changing the header. If I were to also change something down here, maybe in my actual course template, like if I maybe remove course categories, if I didn't want that to display, move that out of the way. Remove course categories. And then I went to save. It would let me know that I'm going to change my course templates because I made a change to this course template, but I'm also going to be changing the header because I made a change up there by adding this column. And so I could uncheck this box and then just save my single course template. And that's just going to save this content area, but it's not going to save that change I made in the header. Then inevitably, when I go to leave, it's going to say, hey, I don't know if that shows up in the stream. That little pop-up window is stopping me and saying, hey.
Yeah, no pop-ups.
Oh, is it no pop-ups?
Yeah, no pop-ups.
Oh, okay. It was giving me that message that says, hey, stop, you made a change and you didn't save it. That classic pop-up we see. But yeah, it just knows that I made the change and I'm leaving the editor without saving the change I made to the header. Yeah, so anyone joining us live, I see we have some new viewers coming in. Feel free to drop any questions in the comments wherever you see us about LifterLMS. Let us know where you're calling in from. Any questions you have, we can dive in to those for anyone joining us live. Otherwise, we'll keep pulling up some comments from the YouTube channel. See another one here. I'll paste in the YouTube comments and then pull up on screen.
I got a professional conversation question for you if no one's going to ask a question.
Oh, yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Did you see the release where WordPress is changing reusable blocks to patterns?
No, I didn't.
Yeah. I actually have a news article for that. I can pull that up for you. But the way that they're doing it, it's not gonna lie, man. Like I'm getting kind of used to them changing things. Like I'm really getting used to just being a detective with every site that I work on, because you got to go in and figure out, well, where did this come? Where did that come from? What's this? What's that? Like it's really become quite the adventure for that. But I'll copy the link and I'll put the link in the chat. Copy. I won't put it in the chat. I'll Slack it to you. But what I find really interesting with this one is I think about, from an agency perspective, how are my clients going to adjust to this change? Because what this is talking about is it's saying we're going to change reusable blocks and we're going to call them patterns instead. And so what that is so the pattern can either be synced or it can be non-synced. So I think non-synced is it's going to be, it won't go change to change to change. Like the styling can be reused, but it's not like a reusable block. And then they have synced patterns, which will be like what we think of as reusable blocks, that you put it in one page, you put it in 5 pages, but if you change it once, it changes everywhere, right? But
Right.
Then they're talking about, in a future release, having a partially synced pattern. And I don't know about you, dude, but when I start thinking about how they rearrange and move these things around, I'm thinking about trying to communicate that to a client. I build a website, I use a partially synced pattern, right? And I get the design exactly the way they want it, and I ship them the website. Dude, in 30, 60, 90 days, I'm just going to get an angry support ticket that says, I'm so frustrated, I can't change this or I can't move that, because it's going to lock down certain things but leave other things changeable. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I was just
right.
interested on what you thought about it.
So I'm still like, I don't know if I saw that message from you. I'm still confused about what a partially synced pattern would be.
Oh, hold on. I changed the stupid thing in my Slack so that I have to click the little caret for it to send instead of enter.
Oh, okay. Why would you change that?
Because I couldn't put paragraphs in.
Oh, you mean like where you do like a return?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I do shift return when I still have enter as my key, and then if you shift return, it'll drop down for you. But Facebook does the same thing with me, where if I want to go to a new line, I have to do shift. Interesting.
And I found it interesting because I know that you're a big fan of the reusable blocks.
Mm-hmm.
And so it changes the strategy a little bit of the reusable block. And, calling a block a pattern, or a pattern a block, or a widget a thing, or a whatever, they can call it whatever they want. Call it a template square. I don't care what they call it. But it's like I call it navigation. Other people call it the list view, for the little hamburger menu. But when they started talking about it's going to be synced, non-synced, or partially synced, I was like, oh no, you're going to lose so many people.
Right.
Like if they keep going in this direction, and I'm not trying to be critical. I love WordPress. I'm working with WordPress for 19 years. But if they keep going in this direction, it's almost like it's forcing people to have to hire people like you and I just to figure out what the heck they're trying to put on their site.
Right. Yeah, that's really, it's annoying for tutorials because of course we have a bunch of content that's been created to talk about reusable blocks and what they are, and now the words are going to change, the section is going to change that these things are located in. Oops, I clicked on the Twitter link. Interesting. So reusable block, you had a reusable block, and that's going to be a fully synced pattern. And then you've got a pattern, which is a non-synced pattern. So that's just going to be the, I guess this area here. These are my non-synced patterns. And then we'll have the synced patterns menu, which I guess would be right there. Then partially synced pattern is in progress.
Yeah, and so I was trying to figure out what the partially synced pattern is, and I almost see it like when you build the block, you'll be able to like lock this, lock that, lock the other, leave this editable. You know what I mean? So like maybe you build this whole thing and you leave like a quote, maybe you leave like a quote area editable. Well, then, an end user is going to be like, well, I want to change the quote, and the color of the heading or whatever, right? And it's going to be locked. And then after about 4 hours of getting ticked off, they're going to email you all ticked off and say, hey, the website you built me is broken because I can't change the font in this square. And I'm going to be like, oh, that's locked.
Yeah.
Remember during the design phase when you asked for all of your headings to be, chartreuse?
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. The whole purpose of the layout is to be like intuitive. It's not like that's a word that gets thrown around a lot, as intuitive and accessible, but it sounds like it's becoming more like obscure and complicated. With just like, I mean, they're still figuring things out, still watching how users are working with the product and kind of modifying it in response. But there is a lot of change going on with the block editor for sure. And it's not, I don't think it's like bad or anything. I think it's just confusing. Just everything going on. I usually don't pay any attention to the releases and the upcoming stuff until it actually rolls out. And then I see questions, coming in about it. But it is challenging that like the fundamental architecture of the block pattern, it just keeps changing. The like how this system works, and like with Elementor, Divi, they add new features to the builder, but the fundamentals of how the page builder works don't really change very often. So it'll be interesting to see where the block editor goes with this. It's got cool features and stuff, but it seems like only developers who are really deep into actually building the tools, those are the only people I've seen who really know how this thing works. And otherwise, it's just kind of like, I think I can kind of create what I want with it. That'll be good enough. But we did have another question come in here on YouTube. How do you add the name of a course to the template? I'm not finding it in the shortcode or merge codes available for certificates. I thought it would be standard include. It looks like the new certificate template would need for each class. Not for all classes, is that correct? Right, so yeah, there's not a shortcode currently for course name. You would have to create kind of a certificate for each course.
Is that even like a realistic feature request to even have a discussion about, Will? Like what if the you know how you set up the engagement, you say create a certificate, use this certificate for this course. Would it be even feasible to think that when they select the engagement for this course, it would merge that course name into the cert?
I think with the way that certificates work, like now that we have the certificate templates versus awarded certificates, I think it could make sense. I haven't really looked at the code behind it as to like how that thing works. I think like since the engagement knows what course it's associated with, I think it would be feasible to have that as a feature because the merge code would grab the course name from the engagement because the engagement has that data when it triggers. So I would see that, yeah, as a feasible thing. I wonder if that's on our board already. I'm checking out our feature request board. We're looking for a certificate. There's 18 feature requests about certificates, verify certificates, groups certificates, add mark complete button, expiration on certificates. That was a question you asked earlier about expiration on certificates. Got people yelling in the hallway outside my Airbnb right now.
And it's late there, right? It's like party time.
Yeah, it's 9:30 p.m. Allow certificates. Oop, was that it? It stops me. Expiration on certificates, dynamic expiration code allows date earned merge code for certificates to be used site-wide, send certificate to students via email. When linked to a certificate in shared merge code, yeah, course name added to certificate. So that is in the feature request board.
Cool.
Let me make sure to link that over to the person here on YouTube. This feature request board's got a lot of stuff on it. Here's our feature request board. Yeah, I think it would make sense though. What's the next question? This is the same question, but it's on a different video. So I'll just copy my answer over there too. There's another question. Wow, we've had a lot of comments this week. Let's take a look at this question. This is an interesting one. Hello, quick question about multi-currency for selling courses and memberships. LifterLMS doesn't support multi-currency out of the box. I don't believe WooCommerce supports multi-currency out of the box either, but I think there's a third-party multi-currency WooCommerce solution that's available. I know like a lot of times with multi-currency, you can set up like a like the setups usually work to pay with a credit card or debit card. Like a lot of times when people are paying in one currency, whatever they're paying with, especially online, will transfer automatically. Of course, paying in cash is not the same, but when you're paying with a credit card, usually that credit card is just going to automatically transfer the currency. But there is multi-currency support through WooCommerce through this third-party extension. Let me see. Yeah, it's not built by WooCommerce, but there is a WooCommerce extension for multi-currency. I see a lot of these. I'll pull it up here on screen too. A lot of these WooCommerce items now, you can't buy them per month, but they do say the per month pricing, $10.75 a month, billed as $130 a year. That's this is kind of confusing. It breaks the price illusion of like $130 being like, oh, that's a lot of money. But then if you think about $10.75 a month, that's a less intimidating price point for sure. But yeah, so WooCommerce multi-currency is my recommendation there. LifterLMS has a WooCommerce extension. So if you were to pick up that $120 per year LifterLMS WooCommerce deal, you could also get this one and have the WooCommerce multi-currency setup going for a website. But I don't really see a huge demand for multi-currency. let me translate this question because this is in Spanish.
Un poquito.
Oh, that's the same question. They asked in Spanish in a different video. Well, I'll reply to that one with the same answer. And that's a third question.
No sabe mucho.
This person has the same question on 4 videos. They're completely separate, but I'll reply. I'll just copy and paste my reply. Is this a question I replied to? I feel like it was. Oh, I see. Yeah, offline viewing in LifterLMS isn't a feature. Unfortunately, that would the data for lessons, the data for quizzes does require an internet connection in order to be able to communicate with your web host and pass the data appropriately. Based on how students are doing with quizzes, how they're doing with content, and then even serving the content. Let's see. So I'll fill out this multi-currency answer here on YouTube, and then I'll dive into Facebook and see if I can pull any questions from there. Extension for multi-currency. Well, Kurt, have you worked with any? Make sure I spelled that right. Worked with any cool LifterLMS projects this week? Any interesting highlights, interesting setups? I know we've had all kinds of crazy questions in the past about creating different types of websites with LifterLMS, creating a jukebox style website, creating complex membership websites that sell physical digital products. We've had, I mean, that's not a very radical example, but just thinking through, LifterLMS can be used for a lot of things. Like I've sold ebooks through LifterLMS. I've sold like templates through LifterLMS, like a zip file. You download, you buy the course, you get access to download a zip file, basically. There's all kinds of setups you can create with Lifter. And so we have some interesting stuff come in. I don't know if you've had any interesting site examples that aren't really just out of the box educational platforms come in lately for you.
No, I've got a project coming up. Well, I should say I have a project hopefully coming up, which is a really cool customer. It'll be fun to share it with you because I think you'll probably like what they do. But they were doing on-site training courses, and it's a tactile thing, right? Something that you have to do with your hands, and it's artistic. And they want to move to a more virtual example. And what they might do is go with a hybrid example where they offer the virtual example for one price, and then the live instructor-led stuff, at an elevated price, right? So to increase margins, do a good, better, best sampling. But what's cool about it is because it's kind of artistic, they're going to need a lot of video feedback, audio feedback. So we're just looking at all the different tools with like private areas and audio embeds and different video tools to try and allow the instructors and the students to be able to communicate more freely and more completely with those types of tools instead of just like instant messaging, right? So it's really cool because LifterLMS has a lot of those tools kind of half baked in already, and then it's just a matter of tweaking it and styling it to match their, the kind of like their branding and marketing, right? So that's a pretty cool project. I like that one. Fingers crossed that I get it. The proposal's sitting on their desk. But I feel pretty strong about that one. I think I'll probably get it. And then realistically, man, I'll just say it here while we're live. My agency is open and ready for work. I'm looking for something decent. Like I was doing a bunch of like entry level, get people started, entrepreneurs, startups. Like I really like that vibe. I like people with new ideas that are excited and fresh. But I'll just be blunt, man. I think the economy is causing people to make weird decisions. You know what I mean? So it's like, I want to make sure that people are like well funded or have the budget or know what they're getting into before they get involved. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like getting halfway through a project and then being told, well, I'm running out of money. I can't do this. Or can I get my money back? Or it's just a weird conversation. It's like, no, you didn't buy a pair of shoes. You spent labor. That labor's been spent. So I try to be upfront and tell people what they're getting into, from the get-go. But if they can't stay streamlined on their idea, then that scope creep takes over and it begins to absorb their budget, and then they realize they might not be prepared. So yeah, I'm very much going after the bigger stuff now, just because why not? We have the ability, we can do the automations, we have people on the team that can do the graphics and the video editing and the curriculum development and all that stuff. So I'm really looking forward to I'd really like to have a really fun, cool, integrated project come up. It's been a while.
Yeah. It's interesting when a lot of WordPress projects come up when the owner of a WordPress project creates a website, creates something inside of WordPress, and then kind of hits a wall. And so it's rare to find projects that are from the start WordPress driven, or if they do find someone who's interested in building an LMS component into their WordPress website, there's already some kind of established marketing site that's running an old version of WordPress or a completely incompatible theme or something going on. Like, since WordPress is an ecosystem that contains a lot of moving parts, a lot of components, and a lot of build it yourself kind of stuff, it's rare to find like new WordPress projects. I founded the agency space. It's really the agency has some other method of finding leads and some other angle at the market, and then that agency prefers to use WordPress for their builds or customized version of WordPress, and that's how WordPress gets introduced into like larger organizations, like global organizations and big brands and all this stuff.
No, it's not really my project, but I was the project manager on the project for another provider. We just launched a website this week, and it was really, really interesting for me because, and this might ring a little more true to you because now you're a world traveler. But dude, we had people in Vietnam working on it. We had people in Pakistan working on it. The main client has, trainers and teachers and coaches globally, something like 100 countries or something. And we basically had to dismantle their old custom website that was made in another country that wasn't functional. Like, their automation stopped working in 2017. I mean, this thing was just like it was like a broken down ship in a sea of icebergs. You know what I mean? Like it was dangerous. It was bad. And so we had to dismantle that and somehow strip the 2,200 users out of it with all of their pertinent data. And we're talking like username, password, payment structure, their biographies, their avatars, all that stuff. We had to figure out like, what can we save? What has to get stripped out? And then it took about a week to parse the migration of user data from the old broken system into a new WordPress site that had some different automations attached to it. So it was a pretty cool project. And that just launched. I mean, literally just went live yesterday morning. But like I said, I wasn't really doing all the work. I was more like the project manager that was just kind of like, you go there, you do that. We're going to take that hill. Let's go. Hut.
Nice.
It's really cool. What's that?
How do you like that project manager role versus the actual implementer role? Because I know you've done both for multiple projects.
Well, at the risk of being overly transparent, I'm actually much better at the project manager role than I am at the developer role. I'm a student of leadership, and I'm an author on leadership, and I associate with a lot of people in that space, and I just have a way of everyone's got a like core value index is a CVI is what some people refer to it as, but it's like, how is somebody hardwired, right? Like, certain people have a certain hardwiring for certain talents or skills or whatever, right? And so I have the distinct ability, my core value index is that I have a way of being like an inventor or someone that finds a better way, right? And so when I have a bunch of people and a bunch of tasks, my innate skill is that I can figure out a way to organize those tasks in a way that makes sense and be the most efficient. And it's a lot of fun. It's really cool. When the whole thing comes together, I mean, dude, when you're working with people from Vietnam and Pakistan, culturally, they're completely different than us, you know? And so like when you're like, hey, it's Tuesday, will this be done on Thursday? They're like, oh, I am taking a trip with my family. I am, and it's like, because their culture, their priorities are completely different than ours, right? And I'm not saying whether it's good or bad, but I'm saying you have to understand it. And it was really interesting. And the coolest part was when we, I had to make the call and tell the customer the site was live. And man, like you're anxious because you're waiting for a customer to complain or say, well, this isn't right or that's not right. Or instead she was like, hi, Kurt, this is amazing. This is so cool. You guys are awesome. And I was like, wow, wish I had that recorded.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've done those same projects where it almost feels like projects that have more people involved end up a little with higher satisfaction. I don't know if that's like really true when you get into agency space, but I think expectations are more accurate. And my favorite project that I've ever done was when expectations were actually like kind of the opposite direction. They kind of view WordPress as super complex and very, under the hood it is, but like in LifterLMS, if you want to add a progress bar, if you want to change the color of the progress bar, these are fairly simple things to do. And you can do them with the general user interface. You don't need to write code for any of this. And so showing people how to, I can't even remember with this example because this was years ago what I did, but I basically installed WordPress and LifterLMS on a WP Engine setup. They already had WP Engine set up. Their developer could do that, and then I came in and installed LifterLMS, configured the payment gateways. They still went and provided me their API keys for their authorized.net install. It's the only time I've ever used authorized.net. And I plugged in the API keys and I showed them how to build a course. And then they came to me with a bunch of questions, but they were very simple questions like, changing the color of the mark complete button, adding tabs to a lesson. But they're like, they were using the block editor and they were so excited and happy about what I was able to show them about the block editor. Like, oh my gosh, I spent hours on this. And I'm like, really? You spent hours trying to figure out how to add tabs to a lesson when we already had the Cadence blocks installed, so they could just use WordPress block, the tabs block, and do that, and then add blocks in there. But there was just something about it was like I think a physical therapy company, and so the skill sets and the physical mediums they're used to working in don't really translate into the structural data thinking that goes along with WordPress and website work. So the things I was able to show them kind of were super impressive, and they were super excited about it. And I'm like, this is the easiest stuff in WordPress. We're not even customizing anything. We're not reworking the system. We're just trying to change something small, and the tools are all on the screen in front of you right now. And so I really get excited about those projects that are like, it's almost like a softball project. But I really enjoyed working with the company, and the people were super nice. And I mean, I've spent like 7 or 8 years maybe now in WordPress. So it's, I don't know, maybe I take for granted how, just understanding like how to add a page or how to add a blog post or what permalinks are and the structure and what your permalink structure should be. And even though it's maybe a plugin I haven't worked with before, how plugins work and what features they add might be a little bit more of an easy thing for me to understand being in WordPress longer term. That was my favorite project to work on, just kind of being the developer. And the whole point there is they had other people on their team dedicated to building the website. So I wasn't even doing the work of building the courses or adding the content. I was just assisting these people by helping them figure out the tools for what they need to do inside of the website.
Yeah. I have a client that is they're a DIY guy. They're doing their own automation, their own integrations, their own everything. And I'm just a guy. This might sound weird to some people, but they literally have me on a retainer and they just schedule Zoom calls with me just to tell them what to do. And sometimes that's the most fun, right? Because they're learning in the process. Their goal was to learn. Wasn't like, they were like, hey, we know we could pay you to do this, right? But if we try to figure it out and we know we're going to manage it in perpetuity, we'd rather just pay you to teach us, when we need it. And it's kind of cool. Every now and then I get a Zoom invite, I jump on and I just, scrape the money off the retainer.
Yeah. And that's what I realized with those kind of examples are that these sort of people working on the website are not really looking to transfer the problem or transfer the cognitive load onto somebody else. They're simply looking to figure out an answer for how they're going to move forward. And so that's an interesting type of customer. We deal a lot, like it's like a lot of the support tickets coming in, not all the support tickets, but a lot of support, a lot of YouTube comments, like the comment earlier about what was, adding the name of a course to a template, to one of the certificates is not a feature in LifterLMS currently. This user's already figured out that that's probably not an option, but they're just kind of reaching out to ask about that. So they've already done the work of figuring out whether that's an option or not by exploring the tool and figuring it out. I know we've had like support threads. There's another way to approach that question, maybe in my opinion, a worse way to approach the question, which is, I didn't find this after 5 minutes of looking, like, why isn't this a feature? How do I do this? Like, this should be in here, kind of a thing. Or it's like, that's just not a path you can take. So we understand that the path moving forward would be to create a different certificate for each course. And then we add it to the feature request board. And yeah, it's just kind of more of a path where users are kind of focused on the end goal. They have the end goal in mind. And I think that's the organization I was working with that I was just talking about that I enjoyed working with, was they already had customers. They already had people they're trying to integrate into their course platform, and they're willing to work with the tools at hand. So they just have a different perspective on creating a platform than what I've seen in a lot of more builds with LifterLMS or builds with WordPress, where there's a lot of friction. A lot of times where there's friction is where the owner might be on some kind of a budget frequently, and they're trying to create this like extreme platform. I think I don't remember if I sent you this picture on Instagram or something, but I saw a meme that said first time founders. It was the two people on a bus. And I think it was from like the Joker movie or whatever. The Joker was like looking at this person, kind of funny. And the first time founders are like, if I add 76 new features to my product, it's gonna take off or whatever. I don't even remember where I saw that. It might have been Facebook. I'll pull that picture up.
I almost wish that WordPress would start to go down the path of having two products. And I'm not talking about .com.org. I'm talking about in the .org world. I almost wish that they would have like a WordPress Lite that's like simple, easy to use. Maybe it's like the block editor, simple themes, and like blogging, and maybe a payment gateway. You know what I mean? And then like the reason WordPress is getting complicated, it's like consumerism and unhinged pride in the fact that people at WordPress and plugin developers can supply that customer, that consumerism, but it overcomplicates it. I think about it like riding a motorcycle, or if you're into classic cars, it's the same thing, right? I think about the simplicity and the fun and the freedom that came with motorcycling in the 70s and the 80s, right? It was a frame and engine, wheels, brakes, throttle. Man, you turn it, hang on, ride wheelies, slide around, skid to a stop, whatever. It was fun. It was invigorating. It was awesome. And it's just like driving a classic car. You getting a Dodge Dart, a Camaro, a Mustang, or whatever. Getting a Dodge Newport. I don't care what it is, but if it's old, You know, it made a lot of grunt, made a lot of power. It was fun. It didn't have ABS brakes or any of that nonsense. You just turn the wheel and hit the gas and spin around in circles. And it was a hoot. It was fun. And then through consumerism and through unhinged pride, we have come up with these like really complicated vehicles. Like motorcycles have wheelie control, slide control, traction control, all these things. So like if I hop on a new motorcycle and all the safety crap is on, I can't even have fun riding the motorcycle. Like it doesn't do wheelies, it doesn't do stoppies, it doesn't, you know, it doesn't skid to a stop and slide in a parking lot. It doesn't do any of the cool stuff that motorcycles used to do unless you figure out how to turn all that crap off. And it's the same with cars, like with the airbags and the traction control and the slide control and the, you know, automatic braking, and now they got the stupid cars where you can't even trust your cruise control. It speeds up and slows down and looks at everything all over the place. It's just crazy because it used to be fun, and now you're just sitting in a chair letting technology take you where you got to go. Younger people don't know my angst. They don't know the pain that I feel. They think that that's a good thing. It's if you're older and you experienced all this freedom before, it was awesome. And I think that that's kind of what's happened to WordPress, right? Like WordPress has become, you know, the Tesla of today, and there's just too many buttons and too many widgets and too many customizations, and I think it overwhelms and confuses people. You know, if I just had 27 more things that I could launch.
Right.
Oh, this guy wants 73. Let's say 73.
Yeah.
Yeah. 73 new features will magically make the product go viral.
Yeah. Yeah, that was kind of a funny when I saw it. And yeah, that's but if we really focus on kind of the end goal and filling in the consumer need and focusing on where there are problems and how we can provide solutions to those problems, it makes some of the solutions that are available a little bit more interesting or appealing. But yeah, I guess we're at about the top of the hour now, so we'll sign off for today. Drop a comment on this live stream wherever you see it. We'll be live again next week. Will Middleton and Kurt von Ahnen from LifterLMS signing off, and we hope you have a great weekend.